What's up, guys? Got a kind of fun video for you today. I'm going to be doing a install and review of this Pelsee mirror dash camera. I've been wanting to get one of these for a good amount of time and recently got hit in my bumper. I was parked on the side of the road inside a friend's house and a drunk driver sideswiped my bumper. So figured it would be a good opportunity to go ahead and pull the trigger on one of these. These mirror dash cameras, not only obviously do they show the dash cam and the rear cam when you're driving, but they also have like a 24/7 surveillance feature to where if there's any sort of movement of your vehicle, it will record that event and then you're able to see the footage. Fortunately, when I got hit, I was able to come out. I heard the crash, got the guy, got his information, just got the insurance situation resolved, and I have a Backwoods Adventure Mods high clearance rear bumper on the way. So that's going to be an upcoming video as well. So it turned out to be kind of an okay situation. But as far as the dash camera is concerned, not only does it give you kind of that surveillance feature, but it gives you a better view looking out your back window. I have a rooftop tent and it blocks part of my back window. So now with this, I'm going to be able to get a full field of view and even get some blind spot visibility. And that's another thing, is with this new bumper, I am not going to be able to have my sensors anymore where it like flashes on my mirrors to say if there's somebody in my blind spot, and this has that feature as well. So I'm pretty excited about installing this thing. I'll go ahead and show you here just kind of what you're going to need for the install, and then I'll show you the damage to my bumper, and then we'll get into the install and the review. This is the kit that I ended up going with. It is the P12 Plus. The 12 stands for 12-inch LED display. They also have a 10-inch version, so if depending on your vehicle, you may want to size down. In this kit, it comes with obviously the mirror dash cam, so front-facing camera, that's in 4K. Then there's a rear-facing camera that you have to run to the rear of the vehicle. That's in 1080p, and then it comes with a DC power for all of that. So that's like your cigarette lighter type of setup where, you know, you're going to see that cord running through and it's going to be plugged into your cigarette lighter. So I opted to get the Hardwire Kit. So if you want this hardwired, you're going to need to buy this separately. And then I also have a truck. So if you have a bigger truck or SUV, you're going to need to get the extension cord to run the camera all the way to the rear of the vehicle. So that's the setup that I got. Now, at a minimum, to do this install, you're going to need a 10-inch socket wrench, a X-Acto knife, and some zip ties. This will get you by, and you'll be able to do the whole install with just that. But this is the stuff that I highly recommend that you also get or use in this install if you want it to be super clean. So this Velcro is used for a power supply box for this Hardwire kit. So you got to figure out a place to mount that, and I'm going to mount mine with some Velcro. So I don't have a fuse puller, so I use these little pliers to pull the fuses. These are some snips to cut the zip ties. They do provide you with this little pry bar tool, and you could get by using this. It's a little bit flimsy, but I recommend using, you know, a nicer set of the pry tools, and I have a different variety of those depending on the trim I'm pulling. Some Permatex sealant, so that's for when you cut into the floorboard gasket, you're able to seal it back up to make sure you're not getting any water leaks. As far as mounting the rear camera, you can use an adhesive, but I'm actually going to drill some holes, and this is a 1/8-inch drill bit, metal drill bit, so that's how I'm going to install my rear camera. Some extra fuses. It's always safe to have some extra fuses. It's the worst when you blow a fuse and then you don't have one and you have to run to the store in the middle of your project, so I highly recommend that. Sharpie to mark the holes. This is some electrical tape. Now, there is a feature on this Hardwire kit that you can tap into existing your existing backup camera and backup lights. I'm not going to do that, so I'm just going to tape off that wire. So that's what the electrical tape is for. And then a multimeter. Highly recommend using a multimeter for this install. You're going to see why in a couple minutes here, but if you have my exact Gen 3 2016 Toyota Tacoma, you can probably get away with not doing this, but I still highly advise that you test these fuse locations to make sure you're wiring this up correctly, because the last thing you want to do is, you know, have it wired up incorrectly or fry something or, you know, something catch on fire. So we'll check that out here in just a second. And let's look at the damage that was done to my truck before we do get to the install. Here's the damage to my bumper. So what happened was I was parked on the side of the street, and a drunk driver came in from this direction and clipped off my bumper, tore off my sensors. I had stuff just dangling. I might drop some pictures here, but here's all the material. That's one of the sensors, the plastic cover for this bumper here. Obviously this is what it's supposed to look like, but at the end of the day, it could have been a heck of a lot worse, and now I just got a head start on getting this high clearance rear bumper. Really excited to get that. It should be here this week sometime, I'm hoping, so we'll see how that goes. And like I said at the beginning, I'm going to do a review and install of that, so you'll get to check that out. And with that bumper, you got to get rid of the sensors anyway, so it could be a heck of a lot worse. So just wanted you guys to check that out so you could see what happened to my bumper. But now we'll get to the install. All I've done so far is I've just put the mirror on. I didn't take my old mirror off. I'm gonna test out the mirror before I commit to getting it fully mounted permanently. But what I've done is I've just hooked it all up, and I wanted to test it before I went ahead and officially ran all the wires, because if something was broken and I had to return it, that would suck. So I'm testing out the equipment before we do the full install. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you where we want this thing set up in terms of the fuse location. So I'm gonna mount it in the fuse panel that is underneath the dash here. So I'm gonna tap in to those guys using the provided fuse taps. The kit comes with all these different fuse taps here, and the ones that we're gonna be using are these ones. If you have a Gen 3 Tacoma, obviously if you have another vehicle, it's probably one of these ones, but we will be using these fuse taps here. Now for these tap fuses, there is an inside and an outside. So the side that has the wire going to the dash cam, that's the outside. So the power going out to the dash cam, and then this other side is the inside. So we need to make sure that the in is on this side and the out is on this side. So we'll verify that on the fuse panel. What you're going to want to do is find two fuses, one of them, so this is the Hardwire Kit, so you need one that is always on, you need one that is ACC, meaning when the ignition is turned on, and then a ground location. So I have no idea in terms of, if there's an official one you're supposed to be using, but I'm going to tap into this 15 amp power outlet number 1 location. So that's going to be the ACC option. And then I'm going to tap into the, if we can focus here, into the dome. So the 7.5 amp dome for the constant power. So your dome lights are going to turn on with the ignition on or off, so it doesn't matter. So you're getting constant power there. And then your power outlets, they don't get power unless you have the ignition on. So those are the two that I'm going to tap into. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And also with these fuse taps, I don't know, you're not going to be able to get the cover back on this thing with these fuse taps in place. So I'm just going to leave off the cover. I don't know if that's an issue or not, but you guys can let me know. But what I'm going to do first, and this is what I suggest you guys do as well, is I got my multimeter set up here, and I'm going to check to see, I'm going to turn it to volts, and I'm going to see if it is indeed getting 12 volts with the ignition on, with the ignition off, and then that constant power. So let me set you guys up here so you can get a good view of what I'm doing, and then we'll test it out to confirm. I'll show you where these fuses are located. If we look at our diagram here one more time, we're looking for this 7.5 amp fuse, which is the dome, and then this 15 amp power outlet number 1. Now this cover is actually supposed to be installed this way, so it's like backwards essentially when you look under here. So we're looking for this 15 amp fuse here, and then this 7.5 amp fuse there. So those are the ones that we're going for, and we'll test to make sure which ones are which using our multimeter to make sure the power is correct. First, we're going to test the ACC power, which is this 15 amp fuse. So just find a place to put your black probe to the chassis. There's like a bolt over here in the door jamb that I'm going to position on mine. On these fuses, there's like an exposed little metal piece that you're going to stick this probe into. We're getting 0 for that spot. Now we're going to turn the ignition on. 12. So you can see there on the meter. So that means that one does work for when the ignition is on. Now we'll turn this ignition off. 7.5 amp fuse, 12. So that one's constant power, always on, and the other one is the ACC. So those are good. Now we need to determine which side of that fuse is getting power so we can orient our fuses the correct way. So I'll go ahead and pull this guy, pull them out. Ignition is on the left side, and we're not getting anything there. Then the right side, we're getting 12. So we're going to make sure that the inside of that fuse tap is on the right side on this one. And then we're going to check this other 7.5 fuse. Touching the right side, you're getting 12. Touching the left side, you're getting nothing. So you can go ahead and plug in these tap fuses. The wire should be pointing to the left here on both of these. And now I'll show you how to get everything wired up. With the power disconnected from the battery, you're going to pop off this little cover using a razor blade or a small screwdriver on the A pillar to get to this bolt and loosen this bolt with a 10mm. Then you can pop off this trim piece here to expose the wiring here. And then you're going to feed the wire along underneath the headliner and then through here. Got the wire fed through the headliner, down the A pillar, and now I'm stuffing it down this hole and gonna pull it out through the bottom. If you pop this panel off, it's easy to find the wires. You can see them feeding through right there. The wires all the way through, and I opted to pull this box all the way to the bottom because I didn't want it to be possibly rattling around in here. So I will mount this with some Velcro up here next to another box that I have in this location. Now you're going to feed the backup camera wire the exact same way you did the other wires down through here. Then it's going to pop out the bottom. Now I'm going to run it across the center console to the passenger side. Once you're through with the wire to the passenger side here, you're going to unscrew this nut right here that is attaching this panel. You pop that panel off. Then you're also going to pop off this panel. They snap off pretty easily, so you shouldn't have any issues with that. And you're going to feed the wire underneath the carpet here. And there's actually a rubber grommet in there. I've fed some other wires through that one, so you're going to feed these same wires through there. And if you want to see what it looks like underneath, that is where it's at. So you can see punched a hole in there. I'm gonna have to punch another hole in there, and I'll probably put some Permatex sealant on there just to make sure I don't get any water leaks or anything, but let's do that. I've got everything zip tied up nice and neat. Wires feeding through here, coming through, and I popped up these guys to feed the wire underneath it. So if you want it to be a little more tidy, you can do that. Fed this through, and you can see there, this is the wire here. And all I did was I took actually my X-Acto knife to get through this, and I just cut a little slit right there, and then it made it big enough just to squeeze this through. And it looks like I might not even need any Permatex or anything because it's still pretty sealed, but we might do it just for good measure. Now that we're all the way through, I'm going to feed it over the frame here to this set of wires. Some of these are from some other accessories that I have. So I'm just going to zip tie the wire all the way down to the back. And I'm probably eventually going to clean some of this up and put some wire loom, because some of these are just exposed wires. This was my own wire loom, but then it's starting to crack and stuff. So I'm going to tidy this up, but you're just going to run it all the way to the back. Got everything wired up to the rear, all the way back here. I tucked up all this excess wire. You do get quite a bit of wire, so it's all bundled up there. And as I was looking for a place to mount this camera, you guys are going to be pumped about this, but the spot where you insert your tire iron to lower the spare tire fits this camera 100% perfectly. Like, you wedge it in there and it is mounted in there essentially just by friction. And I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to move, or I'm going to mount the bracket. You can see right there, that little hinged bracket. I'm going to drill some tiny little holes to mount that bracket here. So not only will it be friction fit, but it'll actually be hard mounted there. And you'll be able to hinge this camera up out of the way, I hope, with, if you need to lower down your spare. So you can move it out of the way, and then when you want to put it back, you just hinge it back. So I'm super pumped that this worked out so seamlessly. If you have a Tacoma, this is going to be money for you. I'm going to test out just to make sure that this is going to be a good location in terms of view. I don't know if it being this low is going to be an issue, but I'm willing to bet this is going to be perfect. So let's check it out and see how it looks. The last thing you're going to want to do is plug in that GPS unit and run it back through the same way as all the others. Run it down this A-pillar, and then I mounted mine right here. I didn't want to do it on the tweeter just because I thought maybe vibrations or something, so I just mounted it right there. Take some rubbing alcohol just so it sticks a little bit better. Apply some pressure, so that shouldn't go anywhere right there. And then just button everything back up. So put the pillar back together. And then zip tie all of these cables. So I kind of swooped them all, trying to do them kind of in the same fashion, and then zip tied them there. Eventually, I'm going to get that permanent mounting kit to where it's not mounted on my mirror. I really just wanted to test this out to make sure I liked it, but I have a good feeling I'm going to keep this thing and have it my permanent setup, because, I mean, look, it's totally like a mirror, so there's no point in having, you know, one stacked on top of the other. I went ahead and just bought the bracket for the dash cam, which means you remove your factory one to replace it with this one. You do have to have this style of mirror. So you can see with the Tacoma, it does indeed have this style arm on there. So I went ahead and pulled this one off. And what you're going to need to remove this mirror is a T20. So you need a T20, that's the set screw that goes inside the mirror here. And then for the new one, it is just a regular screw. And I did just want to show you, it tells you in the instructions that you're supposed to peel off these little pads on here. And I did that on the first one. And then I was like, maybe I can just screw it through the pad instead of ruining the pad. Because if you take a look at this one, I peeled off the pad, which is this little pad here. So for whatever reason, now I can't reuse this if I want to, or I'd have to like glue on additional padding. So I tried it on this one to just screw through the pad, and you're able to just do that. So it's a lot easier. Little tip there, if you just screw through the pad to get these off, don't even worry about peeling it off, and then you can reuse this later if you wanted to. So I'll show you what it looks like hard mounted in the truck. All right, here it is. Old mirror totally removed. So now this is the only mirror that's up here, and it looks really good. The arm for the mirror looks like it's factory. I was able to even use this little cable management bracket that comes here to tuck all the wires up in and then run them obviously that way. I wish I could tuck this up. This is the old harness from the old mirror. I was trying to get it tucked up underneath the headliner so it was like totally gone, because obviously that looks way more clean. But I couldn't fit this under the headliner, and I was kind of worried about, you know, breaking this or making this all deformed. So maybe I'll figure out how to lower that and get it a little nicer. But for now, I'm just going to kind of tuck it like this, and it still looks pretty good. Really streamlined. I do wish as well that these cables at the top were on the back. So if you didn't even see these at all, it would look really clean. But it's no big deal. It still looks really nice, and I'm happy with it. So we will get to the review and all the features of it now. All right, so first I'll just go through the basic features and functionality of the dash cam. Then I'll get into some main reasons why I really like this particular one, and then some cons at the end, just to kind of dock some points, because this thing definitely is not 100% perfect, but still highly recommended. So as far as what you saw earlier, when you swipe across the whole screen, it flops to this image, which this is the front, this is the back, then it flops those images, then it goes to the front, and then back to the rear. If you tap it, it opens up this menu here, so you can, click these different buttons. On the left side here is the angle of the rear camera, so you can go up and down to look higher or lower depending on where the camera's positioned. And then on this side is the brightness, so you can raise, lower the brightness. I will say I wish that this brightness was adaptive, so when it's bright and sunny out, it gives you higher brightness, and then when it's nighttime, it will just automatically reduce it, but you have to do that manually. So, and if you have this thing on full brightness at night, it is pretty distracting. So it's really easy to adjust the brightness, though, depending on what you're interested in. Up here shows you how long the recording has been running. I have it set to record 1 minute loops, so it just loops 1 minute over and over and over. And then looking at the buttons here, if you hit the home screen, it takes you to this dashboard where you go dash cam. That takes you back to the dash cam. Then you go to smart driving. These are some smart driving features where you have like it tells you if you're like driving too closely or stuff like that. This one is blind spot detection. This one's lane change assist. So some different features with that. I personally find them distracting. It can be kind of useful, like the lane change assist. It'll like flash red on this side when a car enters this zone over here, and then same on this side. I kind of find it distracting, so I just keep those off. But some people might like that. You go to File Explorer. This takes you to all the video footage of the past recordings. So you can scroll through. I'll come down here to, let's just say this one. So this was me driving here, and then you can go back. So this is, like I said, a minute recording, and it tells you down here like the date, the time, how fast you were going. And then you go back there, and this is the front. So these are all the front footages, and then if you go to the back, then that's the rear. So I'll just scroll down to some random one, click that. So that's showing the rear. That was me leaving the parking lot at the auto parts store. So, and then you can trash all these. So depending on the size SD card that you have, it'll store more photos. I just have the one that came with the dash cam, so it's I think a 32 gig or something like that. But yeah, so front, back, and then if you go to video lock, so this is where you lock your videos, and I'll show you back on the home screen where you do that. But this is like if you want all the videos that you have saved. So let's say you were in like an accident, or something funny happened, or you saw like an animal, or you were just trying to record some footage from a trail you were running. This is where you can save all of those. I had some ones that I saved just to show some night shots and stuff. So I'll show you all like some different footage from day, from night, so you can get an idea of what the quality looks like. And then it's the same thing over here with image. If you go to image, this is just captured images. That one was one that I accidentally captured, but if you wanted to, save images, you can do that. Going back to this menu here, so you can go to camera settings. I'm not going to get into all of this stuff, but you can record in different resolutions. You can record, you can change this to 3 minutes. So if you want it to be 3-minute loops instead of 1-minute loops, it would give you less videos, but it ends up being the same amount of footage regardless. These are sensitivities for, and I mean, you can use your common sense for what all this stuff means, but like parking monitor, the sensitivity for that. So it's basically like how sensitive it is to movement. So I will say on this medium setting, it will capture you, like at work, I'll run out to my truck sometimes to like grab my jacket or something like that. It will pick up me opening and closing the door. So basically, as soon as any motion is detected when you're parked, it will turn the camera on and record footage. So I really like that. I have it set to medium, seems to be okay for now. I haven't really messed around too much with it. I've been, testing out these features for about a week and a half now. So far I'm liking it. And then system settings, again, same types of stuff. It has like if you want it in kilometers or miles per hour, different timings of that. So again, I'm not going to get into all that stuff, but you can change just the different types of features that are available. So overall, I just run it super basic. I just have it like you can have it set up to where you have like the time displayed and your speed and all of that stuff. I just have it set up to where it's the rear camera. That's what it defaults to when I turn the truck on. And that's really how I run it mainly. When you push the bottom button down here, camera off, and then you have the mirrored finish, and then you click that, turns it back on. And really that's how I run the setup here. So what I really like about this is it has increased my visibility dramatically. I can see a wide field of view in the rear, and I can see because like my back there, not only do I have that sticker flag, which kind of blocks my view a little bit, but obviously my tent, so it's a little hard to see. With this, it's like you have your backup camera on at all times. So it's super awesome. I'm really enjoying being able to have that high level of visibility. Then it also helps with blind spot detection. So if you have a car that is in, and this is obviously a bad shot for this, but if there's a car that is basically in this quadrant here, you cannot see that car in your mirror. And if you didn't have this mirror, you wouldn't really be able to see it with your regular, just like mirror. So it helps. It's like a wide angle lens essentially. And if you look here and you see a car there, then you know that they're in your blind spot, and obviously it can help you change lanes, but makes it super simple to change lanes. If you look here, you don't see a car in this quadrant, and then you look in your mirror and you don't see a car in the mirror, then you know you're good to change lanes. And I've tested it out, and it's really straightforward. And it's like having the blind spot detection, that little signal there that is currently deactivated because of the accident that I was in. And then my new bumper, I won't have that feature anyway. So that's one thing that I really like about it as well. And then as far as the 24-hour surveillance, so if there's any sort of collision, any sort of bumping in the night, I would be able to pull up this footage and see what happened. And going back to this menu here, this is how you lock the footage. So if I wanted to capture this 1 minute run that's currently happening, I would just hit lock, and then it would lock this footage. Obviously, if you were in if there was a collision that you were like, let's say my car was like parked out there where my wife's car is, and somebody broke in or something, that footage would be stored in the main files. So you would go into the home, you would go to File Explorer, and then it would be saved in this section. And then these are the ones that just get overwritten constantly. So it just constantly overwrites the oldest file. So ideally, you're going to have that file, unless they were, there breaking into your car for an hour. It may overwrite some of that footage, but in most scenarios, you're going to capture the whole event. And really, it's just overall safe. It's a safety feature that really enhances your visibility. If you were in an accident, you could prove somebody wrong that was lying about, what happened in the incident. In any sort of police encounter, you would be able to have that recorded. You got the, like I said, 24-hour surveillance. So if there was any sort of break-in or accident, or like in my case where I got hit by a drunk driver, I'd be able to pull up that footage. So I highly recommend this just for an overall safety perspective. And then obviously the driving, when you're on the road, you get to, have that blind spot and all that stuff. So those are all the pros. Now the cons that come with this, and there's not a ton, but there are some cons, is one, kind of small, but this button here, when you're driving, I don't know if you can hear it, but it vibrates and rattles. So I'm going to put like a piece of tape or some sort of like rubberized, seal on this or something to prevent that. But that is one thing that was kind of annoying, is that rattles around a little bit. So dock on the points for that. The audio is, I don't know if this is mine, and I may contact Pelsee to see if this has been like an issue with the dash cam, or maybe mine's broken or something, but the audio is pretty terrible. Like if you are driving, it sounds, I don't even know. It sounds like just like it's not good. So the audio is terrible. Really, I'm mainly interested in the rear view footage and the video aspect of it, but it would be nice if the audio was a little bit better. I'll pull up the app here real quick for you so you can see where you access all the footage and where you can look at the videos. One thing I will say when we look at these videos is that at night, when there's light shining directly into the camera, that there is a lot of flare. So the quality at night isn't the greatest, but it's still, you know, better than nothing, honestly. But we'll take a look at this. We'll show some day shots, some night shots. You can check all that out, and then we'll wrap up the video. I'll show you the app here where all your footage is stored and where you can access it all. The app's actually pretty cool. It's really straightforward, streamlined. And one thing to note is that you do have to connect via Wi-Fi, and you have to be within range of the camera. So it's not like you can connect wirelessly from anywhere. You got to be in the truck. And just looking at the top here, this shows the live feed. So this is the rear facing camera. If you push this little cycle button on the left, it flips to the front facing camera, and then you can go into portrait mode if you want, or landscape, and then back to portrait if you want. And then the main thing you're going to be looking at here is the bottom left corner, that SD icon. So you click the SD card icon, and then it opens up all of your looped recordings in this first tab here. So this is where the videos that are constantly being overwritten are stored. So you can go through and, you know, find whatever you want. You will notice each of these images has an F and a B on it. The F means front facing camera, and the B is the back facing camera. So let's say you wanted to look at this one here. So you pull this up, and then it opens up this menu where you can see where you were on the map, how fast you were going, all of that stuff. And then if you want to download it, you click download, and it'll start downloading. Cool thing as well is once it's downloaded, it saves straight to your gallery in your phone. So it's not like you have to transfer files or anything. It just goes straight to your gallery. We'll cancel that so we don't have to watch this. And you will notice at the top where it says f.ts, that means front camera. And then if you go to, let's say this one, then this is that same exact video, and then at the top, BTS, so this is a back camera. So just once you get in here and you start kind of scrolling through these, if you're, I mean, it's kind of obvious which one's front, which one's back, but that's just what those file names are if you're looking for a specific angle. And you can go to this snapshot tab if you want. Those are all snapshots that you've taken. And then locked, this will be the ones where your saved footage, if you wanted to save it manually, or if there's any collision or parking monitor things that happen, they'll be saved to this file as well. So that's where you can access all of your footage. And then going back to the main page, you can also access some different settings. So the bottom right corner are the settings, and instead of having to do it on the camera itself, changing any settings that you would like, you can just do it straight from here, which is a little bit easier, but either way works. That's it as far as the app is concerned. And one thing I did just notice as well is if you lower the tailgate, it actually blocks the camera. So I've done it more times than I'd like to admit, but I've lowered the tailgate and then got something out, got back in the truck and drove off and forgot it was down. So now when I do that, I'll look in the rear camera and see that my tailgate is down automatically, and then I'm able to put it back up without driving off. So just add that to the list of safety features, I guess, that come with getting one of these dash cams. So I'll show you some of the footage, different screenshots and stuff, so you can see what the quality is like, and then we'll wrap it up from there. We'll start with this night shot here. So one thing to mention is when I'm looking at this in the rear view mirror, like actually in the truck, you don't see that top section where you can actually see the tailgate. You only see probably the bottom half or 3/4 of the screen. And that's because you have the ability to adjust the camera angle that I showed you before, like up and down. So it's just one thing to note. The recording shows the entire shot, and then when you see on the rear view, you see, you know, what you want to see. So that's just something to note there. You will notice this footage isn't too bad. You can see, you know, most of what's going on. It's a pretty illuminated shot in terms of like there's ambient light around, so it's not too bad as far as the flare is concerned. When you get into really dark areas, all you can really see are the car's headlights. And you know, it's not the greatest, but definitely not the complete worst. And now looking to this video here, this is the same footage, but the front angle. So the front camera, and the front shoots in 4K, the back shoots in 1080p. So the front is definitely better because you have your headlights illuminating the entire path. It just gets a better shot in general. So front's better than the back, but both I would say are relatively good for night recordings. Jumping to the day shots here, obviously much better than the night, and I'm really happy with it all around. I mean, look at the sky back there. You can see the shadows on the mountain. It's great detail for the rear facing camera. And then when you jump to the front facing camera, even better. I mean, it shoots it in 4K. This is as good as anything that I shoot on my YouTube videos, so I'm really happy with that. You can see in the bottom left corner there, it also gives you the timestamp, so you can see the date, the time, and even how fast you're going. So I've been pulled over in the past where a cop said I was speeding and I actually wasn't. So now I have this extra peace of mind where I can pull up the footage to show actually how fast I was going. And overall, I'm just super impressed with this camera. This thing was $100 that I got it for. So you can keep an eye out. I've seen it as high as 200, but just keep an eye out for it to drop down to that $100 price point and pick one up, and you won't be disappointed at all. So feel free to drop a comment if you have any questions about the camera, if you run into any issues during the install. And as always, everything you saw in the video is going to be linked in the description. So I'm always happy when people use those links. But other than that, guys, appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next one.